We are we live, Mel? Does it say we're live?
I'm trying to, yes, we are.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We are live. I've just got to do the normal bits of tagging. How come I can't? There we go. Okay.
Well, look,
just
we're
2
minute.
seconds.
No,
I know. I can't believe it. What's that?
You're getting better at this. We're early.
I know.
It should be after all these.
Right?
I know we're getting better at it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the What's On at Elephant and Castle Facebook page. My name is Nick. Over in Toronto for the last time is Melissa. Hey, Mel. And joining us from KODOBI is Jamie Lee Simpson, who is a health and safety consultant, which is completely of the zeitgeist of what's been going on over the last few months. So really super excited to have you on the show, Jamie. First of all, thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm good, Nick. I'm very good. Apart from the weather, still smiling.
Yeah.
But you're up north. You're in Yorkshire, right? So is the weather worse there?
At the moment, yeah. Hopefully, be a little bit more sunshine when I get back to London tomorrow. So, but yeah, life is good and we're smiling.
Amazing, Mel. Thank you. What's the weather like in Toronto, Mel, for the last time?
It's not the last time. Nothing's the last time. I'm anxious. I'm joking. It's beautiful.
For the last time for a while. Yeah.
As my send off, it is like very muggy, but I feel like a thunderstorm is coming today. So that's actually, I think, will be welcomed. But yeah, this is, I guess, our last Elephant and Castle for me being in Toronto, which is kind of cool and weird. Oh, well, it's a lot.
It is amazing. Mel's going to be flying into London on Friday, and barring all the quarantine stuff, everyone's really excited to have you over here, Mel, and have you back in the city. So that's awesome. But let's get into this chat with Jamie. Jamie, you, like as I mentioned, health and safety expert and consultant with your company, KODOBI. Could you explain a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I started in health and safety around 15 years ago. I used to work for a social care company and I was their operations manager, but part of my role was managing health and safety. From that, I went to go work for a health and safety consultancy company where I got all my qualifications. I was there for about 5 years. And then I went into global investment banking in the city as their internal health and safety consultant. So I've covered quite a range of different sectors: commercial, corporate, retail, catering. There's loads we have covered. But 6 years ago, we opened our own consultancy business called KODOBI, with a focus on health, safety and well-being. So that's the well-being of employees. The main sectors that we deal with at the moment are the fitness industry. So we have a lot of boutique gyms across London, a couple of restaurants and a couple of hotels at the moment. And we act, as you can imagine, at this time of what's going on, we are expanding day by day. So it's been a bit crazy. Throughout COVID was tough, as it was for everyone. For about 2 months, we had nothing. No contact from all our clients because our clients closed down, so we had to freeze services. And I think there was this bit of anxiety just in general all around, between clients, between members, stakeholders, etc. Until about 7 weeks ago, and it was just like a tsunami of work for us. So we had organizations asking us to assist them with their COVID return to business risk assessments. So we've been devising their risk assessments and making sure that that risk assessment, the content of that risk assessment is communicated to all employees. So we've done like a really funky welcome back pack. All our clients are quite on trend, so we like to keep it branded and keep in line with what all our clients are doing. Within those packs, we have had to put COVID reporting procedures in there. How do we report? How do we track and trace? All of our clients have got stringent procedures in place. From leaving their house, employees are told that they should be conforming to government guidance by wearing face masks and sanitizing. Entering the premises, they sanitize, they get temperature checked with thermometers, they get directed to the changing facilities, which have been reduced. And the gym floor itself is all sectioned off and everybody has like their own little exercise pod. So there's really, really strict control measures. We have had a couple of clients with confirmed COVID cases. Nothing serious. They didn't have any symptoms at all, but one of them chose to go visit his elderly parents, so just went for a random test and found out he had COVID, but didn't have any symptoms. So obviously we took the necessary precautions, closed down the club, deep sanitization before we was able to reopen, but no other confirmed cases. And it was very, very mild symptoms at that. But yeah, just a lot of anxiety in general, really. And I think for employees returning to work, I'll be honest, even for myself, I'm used to being at a laptop for 17 hours a day. So I worked for a global investment company and then went on to do KODOBI. So I was just on the go. And then for 2 months, I was just sat in a house on my own in solitude. And when work started picking up, I felt overwhelmed myself. I thought, how am I going to do this? I'm not working. I can't remember how to type an email. So it's quite daunting I think it's been quite daunting for everybody, and it's affected everybody in different ways. We are dealing with it. We're getting back into the flow of things, but there's still that little grey cloud over that. It's still out there, which we need to be aware of. And it's just making sure that as a company, KODOBI, we're not money orientated. Our strapline is taking care of business. So we want to look after your business as much as possible. One, so you don't get any prohibition notices or improvement notices from the local authorities. But secondly, to make sure that staff feel comfortable in going into the workplace, and we're making them feel safe, and that there's sufficient control measures in place. Sorry if I just babbled on for ages there, Nick.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. What I think we can, there's a few sections that I want to kind of discuss. I want to discuss about employees going back to work. I want to talk about employers' responsibility, and then just kind of generally what we've been going through over the last few months, and the observations that Melissa has made, and that you guys were kind of talking a little bit about before we went live. So first of all, what's been the kind of response for people's need or want to kind of get back to work as an employee?
Wanting to get back ASAP for the money, for financial reasons, but still a little bit cautious about contracting or getting the transmission of COVID whilst at work, really. But they felt that they've had no choice. I know with some of our office teams, management have given them the choice where they can continue to work from home if they're able to do their job suitably. And we've done homework station assessments via Zoom, one-to-one and things like that, to make sure that they're comfortable at home and that they feel safe at home. But at the same time, we don't want them isolated at home in their own heads overthinking, because that too can cause anxiety as well. So we've got to get that balance. But in general, people have been keen to come back, I think, for financial and economical reasons, to be honest with you.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Mel?
Oh, I thought you had a follow-up. Sorry. Go on, Jamie.
Nope.
Were you going to say something?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Over to you.
I was just thinking about how I'm remembering my first job as a frontline worker, and I started on the health and safety team, and it was really about like the physical space and like the safety of staff and the safety of the folks we supported. It seems though now the idea or the scope of health and safety seems to be including the mental and emotional wellness of the employees, and also the employers respecting the impact of wellness, of mental well-being. Because I think oftentimes, whatever business you're in, it's this hierarchy of like success and productivity, and we can get lost in the emotional impact of it. So I'm maybe it's let's talk a bit about that and your experience, Jamie, of what you've seen. Have you seen things shift in acknowledging the impact or the changing definitions through your years working of what wellness and health and safety have to include now, given so much threat?
I think it was about 3 years ago. I used to do a lot of environmental, so I had to do global environmental reporting for offices in the US, Europe, Middle East and Asia. So it's collating all this information on fuel and things that are being used. And all of a sudden that seemed to go a little bit more quieter, and the focus was becoming on agile. Now, this was in the corporate setting. So we began agile working. Normally people was at a set desk, and we introduced agile working where people were able to pick up their laptop, move to a separate area of the building so they could come away from people they didn't kind of get along with, or they could just sit down and relax or take a breather. And I think within the corporate industry, what's the word, how can I put it? The focus of productivity and outcomes, we need outcomes now, lessened a little bit more, and the focus was more on, if we focus on the individual and get the individual relaxed, we're going to get more productivity.
Okay.
Without a doubt. In other sectors that I work in, I'm a qualified first aid instructor, so I do 3 or 4 first aid courses about a month. And we do touch a little bit. I'm not qualified to teach mental health first aid. I've done about 4 mental health first aid courses. As of next year, it's a service that we will be providing. But we have had, on our feedback forms, we can pass around the feedback form at the end, and it says, what else would you like to see in this course? And it states mental health first aid. So, and that's coming directly from age groups of around 18-year-old to 25-year-old, who are in quite transient jobs. They're very creative, actors, professional dancers, and things like that. So the corporate world is quite transient. But I do touch on anxiety during how to acknowledge an anxiety attack or a panic attack during first aid courses. And the amount of people now that openly say, I have anxiety. And 3 years ago, people never do that. You could look around the room and see people's faces go a little bit blank and think, yeah, I'm figuring they might have a little bit of anxiety. Now people just openly go, yeah. And I think that's as a result of lockdown, because I think lockdowns removed a lot of that stigma as well. And people aren't as ashamed to mention mental health or.
Well, because it's something we've all had to witness, whatever spectrum of it we're on. We all got to actually process collectively what living in unknown uncertainty feels like.
In my personal opinion, I can't speak for everybody else, I think every single human being suffered some form of mental health issue during this lockdown period. Whether it was return to work, not seeing their families, loss of family. I had friends who had lost families who had to go to Zoom funerals. Say goodbye to their loved ones and things. So I think lockdown has affected, or it did affect for a short time, everybody's mental health and where we go into next, what's going to happen next. And it's just that fear of the unknown, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such an acute space of time. It's such a small space of time, the last few months, where people have realized, like you say, mental well-being and physical well-being are so intertwined. And now employers are kind of realizing that, the whole landscape of the work environment is going to change. And I'm really interested in how you talk about the agile work environment. I think back to kind of the evolution of the tech industries and the startups in California, and how they all had like foosball tables and everyone going around, all bean bags and stuff. So they made the work environment very, very comfortable for people to come and work in. And it's not just the environment, it's the people, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's this kind of new work mode is like, okay, so we can maybe have a nice, comfortable work environment, but there's not going to be as many people around. How important is that physical interaction, for employees and associates to have with one another?
Personally, I think it's really important. I was just reflecting then when you were saying that. In the community that I live in London, there's a gym just across the house from me where everybody knows everybody. And during lockdown, obviously gyms were closed, but people would pass each other and have a little chat, going for their daily walks and things. And people going, mate, I need a gym. I'm going crazy. I need to exercise. And I was like, yeah, I've got a resistance band in my bedroom. And people are like, no, but it's not the same as going and just talking and socializing with someone who's got something in common. So massively that physical and mental go together without a doubt.
Yeah, I think it speaks more to, I think we might have been talking about this before we went live, but what is easy to take for granted, even if it's walking by somebody and smiling, like acknowledging that there's another physical presence in this world that we are navigating with around through, like that kind of, we can get used to the hustle and bustle. And then when everything goes quiet and we're stuck with ourselves and I mean, depending on where we're at with our relationship with ourselves, that can be okay or not okay. But even, I mean, what it's like to share a physical space with somebody, even if you don't talk, or even if you're on a treadmill 6, 7, 8 feet apart, there's still some sort of comfort around being physically close to people. And also, yeah, so anyway, go for that and then I'll follow up.
Yeah, no, I mean, we spoke about quite a lot of negatives of the lockdown and the negative impacts it's had, but I think there is a lot of positives that's come out of it as well. And again, I only speak for myself, but I used to hate walking. If you asked me to go for a walk, I'd be like, it's so boring. I love going for half an hour walk now. Come rain and shine, it just clears the head, clears the mind. And people have taken up things that they wouldn't normally do, different hobbies. And so I think there's some good has come out of it. And that's the way we have to look at it and stay positive within the communities. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah.
Did you have a follow-up, Mel?
Well, kind of, but it was just around the change of like and importance of acknowledging physical touch, right? Where it's like I was mentioning, I couldn't hug my friend goodbye last night, and that felt like I felt almost a visceral reaction to not being able to hug this like person that is so dear to me. But also like, yeah, I guess just the things have changed, and the acknowledgement around the importance of being also physically held, like tenderly and lovingly, right? So I mean, that's just something that comes up, is like the physical importance of being together in the same mental space and physical space.
I think what was different during lockdown as well is every individual's boundaries were different.
Yes.
So some people was like, please do not touch me, please stay 2 meters away from me. And other people would just run at you and go, hey, grab you when you'd be in public, and you'd be like, don't touch me. It's like that sense of awkwardness as well, and feel like you're being looked down on because you've touched somebody. And I saw arguments in the supermarket where people would brush past each other, and but that, I guess I understand what you're saying, Melissa, just having that second person, even if they're sat in the corner playing on the phone or in their own world, it's just knowing that they're there. It's just that peace and that company,
What I think is so beautiful about this is the awareness around the safe, not only safe from COVID, but just in general, safe acknowledgement of physical touch in the workplace. You know, from a white cisgendered male. In the past, and without learning from people like Melissa, you know, perhaps me making a touch on a colleague's shoulder or a forearm or something where I would think, oh, that's harmless, but not actually putting myself in that person's mind where, hey, do you know what? I could be making this person feel uncomfortable. For you know, intention could have been great, but really, you know, it's not. You have to be aware of how you use physical touch. And I think that this has really, really put an emphasis for all people to be able to become aware of what is safe, not only, like I say, from COVID, but safe from a mental and physical space of boundaries in the workplace. It's making touch become not a commodity, but something to be cherished and something to be thought about. And I think that's been really valuable.
I want to add too, like it introduces the dialogue around consent. And I think that is
that's kind of the word. That's the word that I wanted, consent.
I think that's especially in a woman's body that's like maybe small of nature and all these things, like you know, this like fear around consent and what it means as from coming from different bodies in different places. Like it's not okay, it's needed to talk about consent, because similar, Jamie, what you mentioned is everyone's boundaries changed or was changing. The dialogue around consent, and that today this is okay, tomorrow might not be, needs to happen. And Nick, what you talked about awareness, like those two pieces are so important around honoring the safety and security of the physical body. And whether or not we agree with it or not, we have an obligation, I would hope, to honor where somebody's at, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I think that's beautiful. I think that if we can kind of create that dialogue or discussion around consent and physicalness in the workspace for people to become more aware of it. But now kind of looking at it from the employer's perspective, how aware have employers become, not only from the COVID situation, but also like agile work basing, kind of hybrid home work spacing? What are their awarenesses of, again, in this kind of short, acute space of time?
What the actions that have been taken, or
and their concerns
in the corporate industry. They still have people working from home, and they foresee people working from home till maybe beginning of the next year. Some companies have split groups, so they'll have a blue and yellow group. One blue capacity will be in 1 week, the yellow capacity be in the other week, and they take it in terms of going into the office. In other sectors, it is much more difficult to manage and to police, like catering. You've got waiters running back and forth, taking food off people and things like that. So where it can't be avoided, obviously, I've had to write procedures and put in additional control measures, choose face masks and gloves and all that kind of things where it can't be avoided. I think a concern for a lot of commercial businesses, retail, fitness, things like that, is you can't police your staff social distancing throughout their whole shift. And it only takes one person to take a picture of two staff stood together and put it on social media, and that business would have a negative impact on the business. Because it's so much for this company, social distancing. So I think that's the fear that employers have, and they're trying to drill that importance into it, because it has a negative impact on the business. And
yeah, I actually didn't even really think about that in terms of the platform of social media now, where if you're a customer or a patron of something and you're not happy with what you're seeing, it's pretty much easy to let everyone know what's happening. And it can be done like altruistically, like everyone avoid this space. But then you have these other kind of within your organization, you have the individual agency and boundaries to negotiate. So actually I don't know why I didn't even think about that impact.
In business, the whole social media thing is massive. It's absolutely massive. I mean, I won't go into it, like the politician who drove during COVID, he drove for hundreds of miles to test his eyes to see a castle. As soon as that found out, it was publicly announced on the news, and it was shamed. And that's what can happen within businesses as well. It only takes two people, and people who work in retail or fitness or do customer service role are generally good-hearted people and want to help, and they're trained to help. Yeah. And that means getting closer to that person and maybe showing them this gift card or showing them this product. And it just takes one person to take a photo of that, put it on Instagram or social media, and then that company gets blacklisted for not adhering to social distancing. So for directors, stakeholders, or the senior people at the top, I think there's so many concerns going through their head all the time.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, people at that level, the anxiety levels will be through the roof.
Yeah.
It kind of brings up like snitch culture, doesn't it? I know they're talking a lot about it in the States, about people like taking pictures of other people being too close together, and actually then those people can actually be fined. So in a way, it's kind of brought this thing of like, we've had moments where, when certain things have happened, especially in London, the communities just come together with regards to like some very, very stressful times. And I found, James, at the beginning, that this was a time where all of a sudden, and one of our workshops was remembering what it was like in kind of the beginning of these stages where people just came together. And it was such a beautiful thing where, you had that 1 hour a day where you were walking outside in the park and you were like making sure you had eye contact with that one person, because it could be the only person you had eye contact with during the day. And you said hello to them, and it was just lovely. How important is it that we kind of still remember, that the initial feelings of this challenge, to all of a sudden we're coming out of lockdown, and then there's this time where we could lose compassion for one another. And I think, like, how important is it, and how can you kind of stress it to your clients to still remain compassionate, that we are still in a challenging time?
Yeah, I have been throughout all the documentation, like the Welcome Back to Work packs, I have been stating, let's work in solidarity to return to normality. And that's another one of our strap lines, because it's so true what you say, Nick. It was beautiful. I have an elderly neighbour, Jamaican lady, 80-year-old. She couldn't make it out the house, so I'd go knock on her door and do shopping and things like that. And I'll be honest, now my business has picked up. I'm not doing that as much. And then you see people in the supermarkets with masks on, and if somebody doesn't have a mask on, they're giving them dirty looks. So now it's almost, it's turning the other way, isn't it? That compassion's going the other way and turning a bit bitter. You're not doing as you should be doing, and yeah. So that's a really, really good point, and it's something I'm going to make a note of, and start brainstorming how I can drag that into KODOBI and try and keep that compassion flowing and those goodwill gestures. And yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so
Mel,
very important.
No, I was gonna say Mel could probably talk on this quite a bit here. So Mel,
I don't know. I was going to say, what was I going to say? Oh my goodness. It's interesting when we walk through the world thinking that other people are a threat, rather than other people are actually the same as us, going through the same experiences and our allies in our experience, rather than a detriment to our well-being. And I think maybe my question or my lead for conversation might be what we've all seen as the role of fear and how it's impacted, maybe forgetting that compassion is a thing just as powerful as fear, but somehow not as alluring, or maybe requires a bit more work and awareness and self-reflection.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's something we can all, and whoever's listening to this is very aware of, the role of fear and potentially what fear has revealed to us about ourselves, but also about the way we're choosing, whether unconsciously or not, to operate in the world, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to say, you're a threat, you're doing wrong, judging you.
Yeah. And it's just respecting other people's boundaries, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
other people's boundaries.
You just wrap that up in one sentence.
And I think that's why it's so important for people to follow the guidelines, whether you believe in them or not. There could be just a slight chance that wearing a mask, will protect somebody. So wear it. It's your responsibility. And I think that's where people can kind of, if you go, oh, do you know what? It's not a hindrance on my rights or my freedoms at all. I might just have either a cold or a flu or COVID, and this might be a way of stopping people from getting it from me, rather than, this kind of thing of, I'm not going to, it doesn't work to protect me or anything like that, rather using it as a responsibility. And I think just that in its own makes me feel more unified.
Yeah.
When I wear my mask, I feel like I'm being of service.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm actually, so it's just in these simple things of just following the guidelines and just trying to be as open-minded about it as possible, whether COVID's a threat or not,
Yeah, I don't want to go down the political route because I know nothing about politics and I hate politics. But I know in the early days as well, on the government announcements, which we had at 5-6 o'clock every day, there was giving us updates, but there's a lot of positivity. Please help each other. Please do this. Please do that. We will get through this. And I think that was giving the nation that hope that everybody needed. And as the restrictions have relaxed, we're just being told, oh, now you can meet in bubbles, and now you can do this, and now, and we're not getting that same message from the media as well. It's just like, get on and do it. So I think it's a little mixed through.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, it's fascinating for me for a lot of reasons, but as part of my academic background around media studies and media literacy, it is quite important, the messaging that's being disseminated to us, because especially when we're at a state of uncertainty and there's science around it and there's people's personal opinions, it's hard for us to make sense of everything. And if we're nervous to center ourselves and maybe cause harm to somebody else, we're going to believe what we're going to believe. And that's a good thing, but also in terms of the impact it has on us and how we want to continue building relationships is quite can be problematic. Because I guess my question, Nick, when you were talking too, was like, what would both of you say? And even I'm going to think about it, to somebody who is doesn't care about the impact of somebody else, so doesn't necessarily care if they wear a mask or not, or how it affects. So how do we make sense of the individual amongst the collective? Where, like, I don't have an answer. I'm just wondering out loud.
It's interesting because the people who I've seen not wear masks are normally people of a younger generations. And I think from when I try to look at them and I wonder why they're not. And it's normally a couple of men, younger men together. And I think it's this kind of thing of like I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get it. So I'm going to show that I'm not going to get it. And really it isn't about whether or not you're going to get it. It's whether or not you're going to give it. And I think that's if and they all have the mask, like they'll have it under their chin or around their, so I think there's this kind of thing of just maybe being able to kind of hint to people, maybe through media and marketing and stuff, that it isn't about you getting it. It is about you passing it on. And whether or not, and all these young men will have grandparents, and you just have to say to them, and the second somebody does ask them to put the mask on, they do it. So again, it's just that kind of bravado almost,
I was only told about the daisy chain yesterday. I know nothing about the daisy chain. My mum told me about the daisy chain. So you can be exempt from wearing a mask should you have any mental health issues, asthmatic issues and things like that. But you can literally go into the supermarket and request one and wear it around your neck. You don't need no doctor's certificate or anything, which is just like, that's just crazy. So everybody could just go out, grab a lanyard, put it around the neck, and just walk freely. And they could be carrying, and I mean, I don't want to end that on a negative note, but yeah, I wasn't aware until that yesterday, and I just thought that is just crazy. That should be regulated, and it should go through a medical professional to say that they've got some kind of issue that they exempt from wearing a mask, not just walk into a shop, grab a lanyard, put it on. Hey, I'm not going to wear a mask.
Yeah, I remember like months in May when I landed here, and I had to, after I started slowly going to the grocery store around, I think it was in May at that point, and I had to put on a mask. And given my own experiences around certain things, it brought up some hard memories that were like not okay. And I was like having a full out flashback and panic attack because of this, mask I was wearing. And it could have been easy for me to take it off, me like, fuck, I swear, too late. It happened. But
beep.
Yeah, beep. But luckily I was able to anchor myself in like knowing, okay, here's my security. I see my brother, I'm safe, because I luckily have done the work to be able to bring myself back. But there's not a lot of people who can call on themselves as easily, because wherever, again, they're at in their processing and reflection. And at the same time, a friend of mine who lost her mom a couple years back, and through the last months, her mom was always wearing an oxygen mask. She had these flashbacks, and it was causing her like so much anxiety that she couldn't recognize right away, because she's like, why is the person wearing an N95 like making me revert to so much pain and sadness and anxiety. These conversations are so interesting and important around like the individual response and impact based on somebody's experience. Yeah. So if I like take off my mask for a second to catch a breath, you'd be like, oh, that girl's so dramatic, or look at her like, but it's because what's happening for me is very real and a long time ago. It's trauma. And
sorry, man.
No, that's it. I was going to keep rambling. Go on.
What does make me laugh is we stopped at the services. We were driving on the motorway a couple of weeks ago, stopped at the services in a WH Smith's, and there's this lovely little Chinese lady behind the counter, and she said, I'm smiling. Can you see me smiling? I'm laughing. Can you see me laughing? And you can't see if people are smiling or not. You walk into the supermarket, all you can see is people's eyes, and you're like, are you smiling? Are you giving me a dirty look?
Yeah.
It's really bizarre.
It's so strange.
Transparent ones.
Yeah. It's so interesting, like how we have to be aware of people and body language now, right? And even the eyes, like, oh, I have to look in somebody's eyes to see if there's a light or if there's like a shutdown, or I have to read where their feet are in relation to where I'm standing. Are they engaged, or like they telling me to back off? It's so I'm intrigued for lots of reasons, but the psychologist in me is anyway, which I'm not.
I want to kind of like, as we're kind of coming down to the last 10 minutes, I want to bring this up to a moment that I had a few months ago when lockdown started, just became, you could go to restaurants. And I went to a restaurant, and the waiters and the staff there were so happy. Like they were just over the moon ecstatic with being able to actually have customers come in. I really truly believe it wasn't monetarily motivated. It was just the simple fact that they were at work. And I think that this is something to really remember and to be kind of, again, just to be excited about, is that people get a chance to go back to work, and how important it is that we can, if we can work, that it's, for our own mental well-being, not only just the pocketbook. But it was, again, just this moment of gratitude where people were, oh, well, thank you for coming here, and thank you for using our restaurant. And it was just a beautiful feeling. And I think that's, again, a remembering. So not only just the remembering of the unity over having this challenge of this COVID situation, which I think is like us all going to war now. Like we're at war against this virus. Let's wear our masks. Let's be unified. Let's do this. But also like remembering, the gratitude that that businesses have for us, so that when we do go into businesses, to be as pleasant, as kind as we can be. What's it been like with your clients, and how grateful have they been able to have people back into, say, the gyms or something like that?
Oh, incredible. I mean, even for me personally, like I say, I just nip over the road to just quite a small gym, and it's just seeing those regular faces again. And like, man, I've not seen you for ages. I know we can't hug, I know we can't touch, but it's just like, and I know my clients have very strong networks in their teams. Their teams are close. They do quite a lot together. They work a lot of hours together, and they help each other out. And I think being away from them for so long and now actually reuniting again, it's brought them a lot of happiness. Because you have to remember, I know people who have been in flat shares with 8 people, who had just been confined to their room, having to go to the kitchen, take their meal to their room, watch TV in their room, go to the bathroom, go back to their room. And when you can imagine some of the circumstances that people have been through, single parents with 4 children on benefits in a high-rise council estate, and it's just, unbelievable. So at least we are gradually coming back to a little bit of unity.
It's a reminder that like joy can be found, right, in times of crisis. And chaos. Like, and I think, Nick, you said something about we're at war, and my body was like, I don't think we are. I think what's happening is that we are being, well, from my very, very, very individual scope of the world, I think we might be being invited to ask what this current state is revealing about us and our values, right? Because I think even thinking we're up against something that we have to fight and win. Again, this is my personal own stuff, because I saw myself as a fighter against everything for a long time, and that did not work so well. So this is me again. But I think where the resistance is like a possible revelation of some kind of knowing about ourselves and about the relationships and about where we find joy and what is of value. So that's all I want to say. I just got maybe we're not at war.
And actually, sorry, Nick.
No, you go ahead, Jamie.
I got a powerful message from you there as well, Melissa. And what I got was gratitude.
Yeah.
And you know what? It buzzed down, because I watched a documentary during lockdown, and it was about the Second World War and how they had to live. They had to live in curfew. They had to turn their lights off at night and just live in candlelight. They wasn't allowed to make noise. They couldn't. It was on rations of food, and we were moaning and having a meltdown that we had to stay indoors.
Right.
Do you know? So I think just gratitude for. I mean, my heart. Sincere condolences for anybody who's lost anyone in this horrific thing, but just gratitude that we are all here And yeah, that's what I got from you then. It felt like it's not a war. Let's be grateful for what we have got and let's carry on through it. Definitely.
It's funny because I know when I chose that to say we're at war, I knew Melissa would be able to would make a comment on that because of this. But the reason why is because, you know, through all of this, I've been learning a little bit about neuroplasticity and where the homeostasis of mankind likes to be in some kind of challenge, rather than ecstasy or joy or sadness or anger. The resting state of the mind likes to have some kind of challenge. And something that I'm trying to talk to the men that I talk to is this difference between competition and challenge. And if we can reduce competition around each other, but still be in a challenge state, then we tend to excel. So that's why when World War II happened, and when we had the Blitz, and when the rations and the people sleeping in the tube stations, there was a unity. And I think this is the thing, is that when there is a challenge, a COVID, if you want to call it a challenge or a war with a virus.
For growth. Is that what you mean? A challenge
or
growth.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like a common thing, a common peril that unites us.
Right.
You see, and then when we're united, we tend to kind of go shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
And it tends to be against something exterior rather than us as individuals. And if we can reduce the competition around each other, you're wearing a nicer mask than me, rather than we're just both wearing masks. Let's unite. And I think this is something that I'm trying to learn and try to kind of express to people, is that this is a time for coming together, and let's not forget that, and let's keep staying shoulder to shoulder and keep backing each other up.
Definitely.
So Jamie, what's the future? What do you think is going to be? Here, get your crystal ball out.
No, it's good. I can't. You know what? We are all, I think the whole world is we still have that edge of, we don't know, do we? We literally don't know. There's cases still being confirmed out there. They're not as drastic as what they were at the height of the pandemic, but there is still cases out there. There's still countries isolating with returning to and from and things like that. So I think we do have to remember, a lot of people, I think, since restrictions have relaxed, have been a little bit more carefree and think it's all back to normal. They've seen the parks are getting busier, the supermarkets are busier, the traffic and the roads are getting busier, things are back to normal. But I think what we have to continue to take in mind from a health and safety perspective and a health and safety professional is that there is still a pandemic out there, and who knows if we could have a second wave, who knows how it could affect the business, who knows how it could affect mental well-being. And that's the nasty thing about this pandemic. Nobody knows. I can't answer that question. I wish I could.
But I think you answering that way is important, and people need to know that we don't know, so we can't make choices now based on things that change by hour. I think that's a really important reminder.
Exactly. I mean, like I've been doing health and safety for 16 years. When all this stuff started coming through, I was anxious myself, because I thought, I'm not an expert in COVID. I'm not a medical expert. I'm not a scientific expert. I just need to guide and go with government guidance and translate it into something narrative. And so it's been difficult. It has been difficult. And nobody on the planet is an expert in this pandemic. So nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Thank you for doing what you're doing.
All we can do is, like Nick said, is just unite, and who cares what mask you're wearing, just wear it.
you remind me of a quote, and I'm not going to nail the quote exactly, but it's like something like, opinions are one of the lowest forms of human intellect because they take no education. It's just a thought, whereas empathy is the highest because it takes us to think about others. And I think if that's the whole thing, if we can kind of like, don't worry about my opinion, worry about what I can do to try to be empathetic and thoughtful towards somebody else on that tube or on that bus. And then I think that again, that'll keep us together. So Jamie, we're coming up to the end of our time. Mel, do you have any final words?
No, I just appreciate the work you're doing. It's so important. And I think I like acknowledging that you're not an expert, but continue to show up and creating a framework and a foundation as we move forward into unknown territories is so appreciated and important. So thank you for that.
And to you as well. I can't wait to meet you as well, Melissa.
Oh, I know, it's going to be so lovely.
Because when we go offline, we'll arrange something and get a date in the diary. Pleasure to meet you.
Oh, for sure.
You guys, thank you.
Jamie, just quickly, how can people get in touch with you or your business? Do you want to just shout it out, give it a plug?
Yeah, it's KODOBI.com. So K for Kilo, O for Oscar, D for Delta, O for Oscar, B for Bravo, I for Indigo.com. KODOBI.com, and you'll find all our details on there, contact numbers. There's our office contact number, and there's my direct contact number on there. If you have any queries about anything, we're an organization who wants to help. So we're not going to bill you for every single thing, every phone call that you make, or if you've got queries, or if you've got apprehensions or anxieties, you're not going to get an invoice for it. Just give us a call and we'll see how we can help.
Lovely.
Okay.
You're a beautiful human being. I'm so grateful that you're in my life, and I hope that when we do get to see each other, I'm going to give you a big bear hug. So,
Wear a mask. I'm joking. Okay.
Thanks, Jamie.
See you later.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And thanks everyone at the What's On at Elephant and Castle Facebook page. Don't forget to join us Thursday at 2 p.m. for Melissa's last workshop with regards to creating more boundaries and healthy relationships with ourselves and with others, 2 p.m. And we'll see you then. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks, Mel.
Thank you.